Man, can Keanu Reeves do any wrong nowadays? Alright, I mean, we all stumble every now and then. I think we can give him one. John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, once again follows Keanu Reeves as John Wick, a man who really loves his dogs and his car. This movie picks up directly after the events of John Wick Chapter 2. Without spoiling anything about that movie, shit's gone down, John Wick's in trouble, and the whole entire city of New York and the whole entire world is trying to kill him. He goes to some people that owe him some favors, he goes across the world to find some people that can fix the situation, a lot of shit goes down, a whole bunch of motherfuckers die, and Keanu Reeves looks like an absolute badass the whole entire time. That's basically John Wick 3. In actuality, that's basically John Wick 1, 2, and 3. Much like the previous two, the story here is pretty simple. But the story, while cool and interesting, isn't why we're here. We're here to see Keanu Reeves look like a total badass and double tap a whole bunch of motherfuckers in the head. And that's exactly what this movie offers. Motherfucking badass action scenes. Yes, the story's here, and it is interesting enough, and it does give us context for these badass action scenes, thus giving us weight and meaning to what's going on screen. But that's about the limit of what the story is meant to do here in this film, as it was with the previous two. And that's totally okay. The John Wick series is one of the most consistent series out there. I loved part 1, and I thought part 2 was a really good follow-up to 1. Not quite as good as part 1, but still really entertaining and a great ride. And that's about where I am with part 3. I was a little afraid that I was going to be burnt out with it by the time part 3 rolled around. But no, they do just enough to keep it interesting and up the ante at every turn. Some of the action scenes in this movie are fucking amazing. This movie starts hard and strong and just really doesn't let up much. There's a part in the middle where things drag just a little bit, but not for very long. It starts out fast and pretty much keeps that pace throughout the whole entire movie. This series has been known for extended action scenes, and this movie does not disappoint in that regard. What I really like about the series, and especially this one, is that even though these scenes are really long, they never get boring, because the filmmakers pepper them with just the right amount of new cool stuff throughout to keep them interesting. There's a scene towards the beginning where it seems like every single person in New York City is trying to kill John. It's like a non-stop barrage of people trying to kill him left and right. There's a scene involving a few guys and John in a hallway duking it out. And we've seen tons of hallway fight scenes, and yeah, they can be cool, but at times they can get a little bit long in the tooth. But in this one, they cleverly throw in some knives to spice things up. And not just some knives, a whole shit ton of knives. This is a really cool action scene to start the movie with, and when it's over, you kind of wonder, are they going to be able to top this? And the answer is yes. There's another scene about halfway through the movie that involves John and another character going through and slaughtering what seems like hundreds of people. And just about the time you feel like it might be getting a little bit derivative, they throw in these two dogs that make the scene absolutely awesome. And that's pretty much every scene in this movie. Just when you thought you've seen about all the scene has to give, they throw something else in there to make it totally awesome. So I mentioned the story was pretty much there just to progress the plot forward enough to get to the next action scene. And yes, that is the case, but the story here is interesting and does flesh out this John Wick world more. Granted, at times it does run the risk of fleshing things out just a little bit too much, seeing as how that mysterious mystique about the whole world is kind of what makes it intriguing. But they never quite go too far. This time around, we get two new antagonists added to the mix. The first is a representative of the Assassin's High Table, and I've seen that some people have said that the actress that plays this character doesn't do a very good job. They said she's kind of bland and plain in her performance. And yes, she is, but I think that goes along with her character. It didn't really bother me much at all. It kind of fit the character in my opinion. Granted, she's not very threatening in the world, but you can tell that she gives no fucks about anybody or what anybody thinks. And that does kind of go along with the kind of attitude you would think that someone from this high table would have. Then there's the main rival assassin played by Mark Dacascos. This guy is probably one of the first people within this series to really stand up to John Wick and actually pose a threat. He is a badass just like John Wick, and you do wonder at times throughout this film, is John Wick going to actually pull through this thing alive? I did like that aspect of the movie because it did kind of add stakes to it all. By this point, John Wick is so OP that it's almost like nobody can touch him. But Mark Dacascos' character, and two more I'll mention in just a moment, come along and are so much of a OP badasses themselves that they do make John Wick seem vulnerable. In my opinion, everybody here does a really good job. It's extremely consistent and up to par with what we've seen in this series up to this point. Dacascos is a little over the top at times, but it really fits his character. And in this crazy John Wick world, I think you gotta kind of be a little over the top to stand out. And then there's the end of the movie. And holy shit, is at an end. About the last 25 to 30 minutes of this movie is absolute non-stop action. And it is some of the best action scenes in this series. Keanu Reeves' John Wick gets his ass kicked all over the end of this fucking movie. And probably the best ass kicking he takes in this whole movie is by two of the stars from the motherfucking raid. The scene with these two guys in it is absolutely awesome and made me want to go and turn on the raid directly after this. And really, Keanu Reeves kind of holds his own against these guys. I know it's a movie and none of it's real, but on screen it all looked really convincing. Now all that badassery in the end of the movie was great, and I loved every minute of it. But the very, very end of the movie could possibly be a problem in my eyes. I'm not going to ruin anything here, but what happens in the absolute end of the movie worries me a bit because it kind of sort of leaves things open for a further movie. Now I know what you're saying. You loved part 1, you loved part 2, and it really sounds like you love this one too. What's the problem with another one? Well, it's because I'm afraid they're gonna run it into the ground, that's why. I was really happy with where this movie was going and where it pretty much ended up. And I don't hate the end of the movie by any means, but it does make me fearful of what could possibly come. I mean, they could do another movie in this universe and it'd be just absolutely awesome. But I do kind of feel like that this story has run its course and this is a great time to just kind of leave it alone. But hey, who knows? Time will tell. But as far as this movie goes, I had an absolute blast with it. If you enjoyed part 1 and part 2, you're going to absolutely love this one. This is some of the best action scenes you've seen on film in quite some time. This movie and the series as a whole knows exactly what it is. This movie does what we want it to, and it does it really well. And it is absolutely worth a buy. The whole movie is really good, but the last 20 or 30 minutes is worth the buy on its own. So there it is, guys, my review of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
What do you need? Guns. Lots of guns.
I'm really blown away that this series has not produced a video game yet. I mean, think about the John Wick game for a minute. It could be fucking awesome, or it could be absolute trash. How many of my videos have I used this prop in now?